So I've heard that you were interested in racing in the ROX mod series, and this is one of the most competitive series, and I'm going to show you how. So you have to do 50 laps in under 12 minutes and 30 seconds, or 12 and a half minutes for that matter. No crashes, no spins, flips, or anything significant. I don't think that should be too hard. Now, this is a pretty easy track, but these cars are some of the hardest cars in the entire series to drive, but they're also some of the most competitive. So keep that in mind. So we're gonna get going now, and we have a warm up lap here. I changed it to -1, but it's not gonna be like that normally. I have a friend that's joined. Fortunately for them, they're not gonna be able to drive anything, and they've gone already. Timer's on. So it says 13 minutes, but keep in mind that the time is actually out when it hits 30 seconds. Now that shouldn't be a big risk. It's not really that hard on pace. It's more so that you have to actually just set the laps properly without having too many issues. Track the line is pretty darn typical. You just run the outside on the straights and you cross down in the turns. Now keep in mind the apron is slippery compared to the lighter asphalt above the yellow line. It's not as bad in these cars as it is in some of the other classes though. So if it comes down to it, you could technically run on the apron. It's not faster though, so keep that in mind. This car can get very loose. Has rear bias brakes, not by much, but enough to cause trail braking, which could be used as a technique on some tracks, but you got to be very wary of it on other tracks where it's not so much the case. Now, I usually try to make setups. Uh, if it is a big issue on a track, I might change the brake bias on that track in particular. But generally speaking, it is going to be a tool to get more angle into the corner. We are 10 laps into this. We're a little loose there. Things are very loose now. Do note a very good trick if you ever get super loose. You're gonna want to press the parking brake, which depends on which type of steering input you're using, whether it be mouse, keyboard, or well, controller. Um, but make sure you know what the parking brake is. Now, this parking brake isn't like your typical parking brake, where it locks up the rears. It'll lock up the fronts actually. Not realistic, but very useful and necessary because if we didn't have it there, uh, there would be a lot of crashes where they could have been prevented. So it locks up your fronts. You just got to counter steer, tap those front brakes just very briefly. You don't want to do too long, or else you're just going to go straight into a wall and make your situation 100 times worse. Um, but if you just use it as a little bit of an extra tool, it could save you from having to spin. Now remember that spins will fail you from this test, but in an actual race, a spin could mean the difference between finishing a race and not, or more likely, it'll cause a caution. And if you cause the caution by spinning out, you get sent to the rear of the field, at least by your lap. We did change that recently, so it is by lap. Um, so be aware. Now, if I'm gonna be honest, if I'm being honest here though, this test should not be too difficult. It's not a very hard track. You just gotta know how to drive the car into the corner. Now, tapping the wall, you see we're gonna save it. Now, that is a probable situation that could happen. You do not want to make a habit of that. That's demonstration. Totally. That's not like I did that by accident. But you tap the wall, and it'll get you very loose. So make sure you control that. You don't want to. You don't want to get yourself into that situation. Now that slowed me down. That slowed me down again. I'm showing. It's not gonna be a good thing to touch the wall. You want to make sure that you have the parking brake tapped when you do that. You could even have it as you're bracing in kind of way. So usually, if you can react to time, you might be able to expect the wall tap, which usually will lead to a spin situation. And other times, of course, you could just save it by counter steering, which I just showed there off of the exit of turn 4. But yeah. Anyways, let's focus on driving. Again, just the hardest cars to drive. – 22 laps in, we're closing in on the halfway point. One more till we're halfway done with this. We have 7 minutes on the clock. Now, I gotta be worried if I see 6:45, I believe. I think, or is it 6:25? Sorry, 6:15 or 6:45. Um, I can't really think at the moment because I'm driving, trying to focus on driving, of course. Uh, I'm not the brightest mind, so gotta put your brain power somewhere. Um, but basically, yeah, that's we're good though. Yeah, smooth is fast with these cars. It's very easy to get them not smooth, get them very loose. So the less that you can have happening, the less loose the moments, the quicker that you should be. Sorry, like just right there. That didn't feel like a fast lap, by the way, but yeah, there's 4.5 minutes left on the clock. We are 33 laps in. At least that's 17 to go. Not bad. It's a crazy thought. As of recording this, it's been about 2 months, I think, since I've last ran a race. Roughly, maybe a little bit less. Or at least commentated. So we'll see how I look on Arcadia. Might help to do some practice beforehand. So there is 15 laps to go. We have about 4 minutes 45 seconds. 4 minutes 15 seconds. 3 minutes. 3 minutes 45, I think it was. Should be fine. It's basically 3 minutes left here with 11 laps and one straight to go. Shouldn't be bad. That wasn't a very great lap. Of course, consistency is going to matter. All this bantering is gonna kind of screw you up a little. It's no biggie. 10 laps to go, and we have 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Solid. Oop. I felt like there was gonna be a wall tap there, and I was right. And keep in mind this little test here is basically half the distance of the actual race come the season opener, which is a slightly longer than average ROTS mods race. Um, Normally it would be like 80 laps, maybe 90 on this track, but it's a season opener, so it gets that little extra boost. Was that like a minute 40 seconds here to do 6 laps? I think I think about, yeah, we should be fine. 5 to go, minute and a half. Believe it or not, this current generation of ROTS mods is actually probably the easiest generation there ever was to drive. So even though it's like the hardest class, in my personal opinion, it's actually the easiest that the ROTS mods have ever been. So it's been just getting easier and easier and easier. Now we have 1 minute left here to do 3 laps. So I'm pretty confident that we have what it takes to get there in time. I don't know if we'll be able to. We're not gonna make it under 1 minute, but we should be fine otherwise. One lap to go. And with 30 seconds, we almost have enough basically to do another lap. So, yeah, here we go. So that is it. I'm just going to see if I can beat it by one lap. Just demonstrate it as possible. 30 seconds is when it's done. And with 5 seconds to spare, we've got a whole extra lap. So yeah, it's nothing. You should be fine. It's not a crazy test. So just make sure not to spin. Those wall taps are very brutal, but as long as you know how to save it and you don't do it way too frequently, it shouldn't be an issue. So that's all. Just make sure you guys got a template. That's it.